Believe it or not, more than 2/3 of students graduating from American colleges and universities are graduating with some level of debt. And that's creating a no-win situation for both student borrowers and the economy. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, student loan debt has crossed the $1.2 trillion mark, and that makes student debt the highest form of consumer debt behind mortgages. But regardless, any legislation that could alleviate this burden for those who already have to endure this debt has yet to be passed in Washington. Today, Senator Elizabeth Warren spoke at the launch of a new campaign to address student debt and explained a proposal she's working on. Take a look.
In the next few weeks, I will be working with my colleagues now. We will be introducing a bill to bring down student loan interest rates to permit current students to refinance their student loan debt. And the reason I talk about it this way is, sure, it's about math, it's about economics, it's about getting our economy started again and building a stronger economy, but it's about our values. Where, as a country, do we believe we should make our investments?
To talk more about the issue, I'm joined now by Mark Kantrowitz, Senior Vice President and Publisher at Advisors Network. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So $1.2 trillion of student debt, it's a crazy amount of money to even fathom. A lot of people think it's just an issue for young adults, but interestingly, more than 60% of student loans are held by people over the age of 30. How did we get here, and why is it that so many people are carrying this debt for so long?
Well, student loan debt is long-term debt, unlike credit card or auto loan debt, which is paid back over months to years. It's paid back over decades. You also have parents borrowing on behalf of their children and people borrowing to pay for grad school, and that causes the amount of debt to increase.
And, I found this interesting. According to Time magazine, the annual cost of a degree was 70% more in 2011 than it was just 10 years prior. So it grew astronomically. I mean, what is that increase really attributed to?
Well, and for public college education, it's a lack of government support of post-secondary education. From 2008 to 2012, the state support of post-secondary education on a per-student basis has gone down 27%, while tuition has gone up by 20%. It's not a priority for the nation, unfortunately.
And of course, that's all why a new campaign has formed. It just launched today here in Washington, D.C., of course, with Senator Warren. One of the things it's advocating for is allowing students to refinance their loans. Can you break down how that would work?
Well, about a little more than $1 trillion is in federal education loans, and about $170 billion is private student loans. Various forms of this proposal involved allowing students to refinance private loans into federal loans, or allowing students with existing federal loans to refinance at current rates. The problem with these proposals is that the real problem isn't the cost of the debt so much as the amount of debt. And students are graduating with $30,000 for a bachelor's degree. What we need is an increase in the grants so that students have to borrow less, not making the debt a little bit less expensive.
And Mark, in today's speech, Senator Warren really balked at the idea that corporations receive more favorable interest rates than students do. Do you agree with her sentiment there?
Well, when a lender is seeking to make a profit, they're going to make the interest rates that they charge depend on the risk of the borrower. And a student who has a thin or non-existent credit history is a much higher risk than a corporation. So it's natural in a profit-driven enterprise for the interest rates to be based on the risk of the borrower. Now, the federal government is focused more on enabling more students to pursue a college education. So when the federal government makes new loans, they're often without regard to the credit history of the borrower.
What's interesting is that $1 trillion of student debt is a pretty sizable chunk of the overall federal debt, which stands at over $17 trillion. Yet it doesn't seem like there's a sense of urgency in Congress to really reform this issue. What's your take on why that is?
Well, unfortunately, higher education is not a priority for our policymakers. It's not even on the top 10 list, and that's the real problem. If there were more members of Congress who saw higher education as not just an investment in the future of the individual student, but in the future of the country, and not an expense and not a private good so much as a public good, we might see more members of Congress pushing for greater investment in post-secondary education. But military budget is far greater than the education budget.
And Mark, we're running out of time here, but before we go, we have a lot of young people that watch this program, and I'm wondering if you can give some advice, considering how long you've been working with this issue, to students who are about to take out student loans. What should they be looking for to make sure they get a fair deal?
Well, the first thing is try to minimize your debt. Your total student loan debt at graduation should be less than your annual starting salary. If your total debt is less than your annual income, you'll be able to pay back your student loans in 10 years or less. And part of that is not just going to a less expensive college, such as an in-state college, but also you need to look at the living expenses, which are about half of your costs. You need to live like a student while you're in school, so you don't have to live like a student after you graduate.
Very good pointers there for all those students out there. Well, Mark Kantrowitz, Senior Vice President and Publisher at Advisors Network, thank you.
Thank you.